Today's video is sponsored by ExpressVPN. Avataro Sentai Donbrothers, the movie Shin Hatsukoi Hero, is certainly an episode of Avataro Sentai Donbrothers. Like, I know all the solo Super Sentai films these days are about the length of an episode because they've gotta play before the feature-length Kamen Rider film, but this movie just felt like a normal episode of Donbrothers. It's structured almost identically to a normal episode, complete with like a Sentai Hitosuki instead of like a big bad boss. It's just got the framing device of being a movie because it's in the name. I'd say whether that's a good or a bad thing though is entirely up to you. I think it has a unique charm, much like the entirety of Donbrothers as a season, which I've done a full season review on if you're interested, which you should probably check out after this video. Oh yeah, this is a review of the movie episode thing if that wasn't clear, so you should probably comment down below your thoughts if you've seen it, and if you haven't seen it, I'm about to spoil the whole thing. Everyone dies. So on one hand, I think it's kinda odd that despite being the Donbrothers movie, there wasn't much of an attempt to actually make it feel like a movie. I genuinely think if you cut a few scenes, this could be placed right into the show and no one would bat an eye, as opposed to most Sentai movies which, despite their run length, still kind of have this big overarching plot or like a big action set piece that you're like, yeah, that's part of a movie. But here, we have that one scene with Taro, Haruka, and the corn that feels like it's only here for the sake of padding the runtime of the film, so like, yeah, I don't know. Making the Hurricaneer Hitosuki the main villain as well is so incredibly random. I guess they were trying to bank off of the reference to Hurricane Blue's megaphone weapon and how megaphones are used on the set of films, so they could create that one single attack at the end, and then it's just a random monster that we have. We do have the cute gag with like the screen doors from the season like they always seem to do when it's a Hurricaneer reference, but it's just like, why Hurricaneer? Why is this where we chose to make that little reference? I can't help but wonder if it would have made more sense to make the monster Himitsuki. It would have been a cool little thing to make the movie feel more impactful by featuring the debut of the monster based on the first ever Sentai, and maybe you could include the Go Ranger altar since that's a sound in the Dawn Blaster, but instead Go Ranger's just a random filler episode in the show, although that's I guess more of a complaint with the entire show. In addition to the Hurricaneer gear appearing at the end, reminding me like that the gears never really amounted to anything. They're just never brought up again after the last Sentai Hitosuki are defeated. Yeah, I guess those are complaints with the show, but the movie kinda reminds me of those complaints. I guess my biggest complaint is that it just feels very quaint for a Sentai movie, and it feels more like the extended cut of a standard episode. But at the same time, it's kinda what makes the movie so charming to me. The plot of this Donbrothers movie is that the Donbrothers are filming a movie, and they keep talking about making a movie and acting like they're in a movie because they are actually in a movie in universe, but to us they're also in a movie, not like a normal episode. It's like one big fourth wall break because a lot of times they're like, hey, shut up, we're in a movie, and it's like, well, yeah, you are in a movie. I think it's fun to have a sequence that's very clearly a green screen room, and then we cut to the actual filming of it in that room, and usually that's bad. You're not supposed to see the actual green screen, but it's part of the big joke here. And then it's funny that the producer lady's like, oh, how are the other characters cutting into the scene? Like they didn't set up the green screen room and the other characters are literally standing off to the side. I like how the movie kind of plays with time and space, like in classic Donbrothers fashion. It's like nothing makes sense. Clearly the producer didn't protect the set from invading CG dog attackers. However, you can make sure that you're protected when you're browsing the internet online thanks to today's sponsor, ExpressVPN. If you're watching this video right now, there's a good chance you use the internet almost every day. It's made my life more connected and convenient, especially when it comes to connecting to my online communities like Tokusatsu, but it's also made myself and everyone else more vulnerable to cyber threats, and that's where ExpressVPN comes in. With ExpressVPN, you can protect your online privacy and security by encrypting your internet connection and masking your IP address. This means that nobody, not even your internet service provider, can see what you're doing online. For me, I find this to be very useful for downloading certain seasons of Japanese shows shows from certain websites since they aren't publicly available worldwide. And also don't forget that since ExpressVPN has servers in over 90 countries, you can access geo-restricted content from anywhere in the world. You can access the Netflix catalog of some Asian countries and watch episodes of Kamen Rider, or take a look at the Japanese Premium Bandai webpage since it's region locked for some reason, and bask in the glory of the overpriced children's toys. ExpressVPN is quite the opposite though. It's easy to use, works on all of your devices, and is incredibly affordable. If you want to stay safe and secure online, or find new ways to access content for your favorite seasons of Tokusatsu, be sure to check out the link in the description to purchase your first subscription to ExpressVPN. Not only does it support the channel, but it'll also help you on your journey through the online environment, whether or not you're a fan of Tokusatsu, but you probably are, and in that case, I definitely recommend it. The director character is one of my favorite parts of the movie. Actually, no, one of my favorite parts. He keeps talking about realism, which just reminds me of another character, which I thought was funny. But then, like, he casts Taro and Haruka, and they're the two worst actors of all time, but he thinks they sound perfect, even though, like, why do they sound like that? They sound so weird, but it's very funny. It's very funny. Anyways, back to the director. When it's time for the final action scene, like, he literally looks at the camera and is like, well, it's time for the final boss battle, and I know just the person. Me! He's so committed to making the perfect movie, he will fill in the role of the big villain. And then in the actual battle itself, when Don Momotaro arrives and he's about to do his normal introduction scene, the director dude's like, dude, do you have to, like, do that? You have to hog the spotlight. Give us a normal roll call. And then we get the main 5 Donbrothers doing a normal roll call, and it's literally the only time we ever get the main 5 Donbrothers doing a normal roll call, because they definitely didn't do a normal one in the show, and then once we got a normal one, it was with all the other characters. So I thought that was pretty funny that that only exists in this movie. I guess that does give the movie a bit of that special element that I was talking about earlier, where it's the only time we get a normal main 5 Donbrothers roll call. And it's nice too because Jiro is still in the movie, but he's like in classic Donbrothers fashion. He's only in the movie for the beginning of the fight, and then he gets sent into space or something, and he's apparently spinning around for the rest of the fight. I thought that was pretty fun. That was a nice gag, because usually I feel like summer movies don't have the Sixth Ranger really involved in them, so I think it was funny in this one. Like the actual show, they went out of their way to exclude Jiro from this random movie. Ironically though, I think it made him a bit more memorable within the film, because unless you're Taro or Haruka, I feel like the other characters are kind of just there, which I mean, I feel like that's the case in most Sentai movies, but I don't know, there's something about it like here where it's like, oh, this character gets his own segment, oh, now we've got another character with their own segment, but they're like just kind of like very basic, like this is the character's personality from the show, and we're gonna have a little bit about it in the movie. It's fine. It was just it kind of struck me as odd. Unless you're Kaito, because when Kaito appears, we get to see the Zenkaigers, the Kikinoids. They come back. They get the cameo in the back. Their transformation sounds play. Majin does her little hat attack, and they play the like magic sound bite that like is used in the actual season. And then the sign says "new, new, new," and Kaito is like, "Oh yeah, I fought in the past." And then you show the Zenkaigers. It's like, wait, is this the same Kaito from the show, or I don't care. Hi Majin, hi Majin. Does it raise more questions about Kaito's backstory? Does it clear up Kaito's backstory? I'm honestly too tired to care or think about it at this point, especially since we got the crossover movie coming up, which may or may not actually give us an explanation. Probably not, but we'll have to wait and see. Speaking of Kaito, remember when Kaito like watched Kamen Rider Revice in Donbrothers and then turned off the TV? So Revice just exists in this universe, and they reference that in the movie, like at the beginning, where the producer lady is like, "Come on, you can." Kamen Rider, I forget what like the specific, she kind of like implies Kamen Rider exists as heroes, but we have this TV show where it's fiction. I'm not sure what's up with that, but either way, they literally play the Revice stamp soundbite, and Haruka even says like, oh, she actually said it, because in the show they had to like bleep out Kamen Rider Revice. Like the joke is like, oh, we can't say Kamen Rider. I think it's funny. Haruka's aware that she's in a movie. No, wait, she is. Yeah, she's talking to the camera for most of it. I'm so confused now. I don't know what's happening. And then also I love the little part at the end where they're like, Dawn Brothers movies canceled, everyone, we're moving on to Kamen Rider Revice Battle Familia, which is funny because like I assume in universe that's what's happening. They're like, now we're gonna play the Kamen Rider Revice movie because that seems to exist as a show, but also I'm pretty sure that was literally like what was happening in actual Japanese theaters in real life, where after this movie played, they played Battle Familia. I think that's how that worked. I haven't actually gone to Japan to see a double billing of Rider and Sentai movies, so maybe it doesn't. So make sure you're subscribed for when I eventually talk about that movie here, and also the crossover too. Make sure you subscribe for different movie discussions. And then to top it all off at the end there, we also got that little bit with Haruka winning an award for acting instead of manga, but since she's a horrible actor, she's just dreaming the whole thing before the movie starts. I thought that was a fun gag to like reference the actual show. As a fan of the Dawn Brothers cast and show in general, I'm not really bothered that this was structured more like an extended episode rather than a movie of sorts. I mean, I didn't go into it expecting a big movie, I guess, so it didn't really crush my expectations. Would I have preferred a larger scale story? Yes, especially the Go Ranger monster, but I'm perfectly content with this smaller scale one, as I still had a great deal of fun watching it. Please let me know what you thought of the episode movie in the comment section, and check out the description for links to my Patreon, previous videos, and that ExpressVPN link, and I hope to see you next time.